So moving on to the actual session that you've all come for, start with our panel members. I'm going to ask them to do their own introductions so they can tell you a bit about what they were doing at Heriot-Watt and what they're doing now in their career and where they're living and things like that. Okay, Ashwin, can we start with you?
Sure. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. Firstly, Catherine, thank you very much for organizing this and for inviting me to this wonderful webinar. Happy to provide my insights here. So I'm Ashwin Balaji. I work as a senior consultant in Wood Mackenzie, based here in Boston, in the Northeast. I actually graduated from Heriot-Watt in 2016 from the electrical engineering batch. So started off as an engineer, but what I find myself doing right now is pretty much at the center of a variety of cross-functional teams where I'm doing not just engineering, but also finance, strategy, and sometimes even brand management, depending on the type of clients that I'm working with. So my area of focus is specifically in the energy sector. And I specialize in the power and renewable space. So I help a lot of clients who are coming up with new, generation technologies to try and fuel the energy transition, because that's a very hot topic in today's world. Just find myself in the center of all the action, and yeah, that's a bit about me.
Thank you. And Humam?
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Humam. I have graduated. I had the pleasure, first of all, thank you, Catherine and everyone for organizing the event. And we had a nice introduction from Ashwin. I had the pleasure of studying at Heriot-Watt University on my bachelor degree. And I graduated in 2018 as mechanical engineering graduate. I recently moved to Ottawa, Canada, to pursue my studies and finish my master's degree in the same batch as in mechanical. Heriot-Watt University was I was very fortunate to be in, because it kind of gave me the international experience that I was looking at and helped me to gain a lot of technical skills that is needed in the job market currently. I'm working as a project coordinator, more into project management side other than specifically in engineering. But it's been a very helpful and very useful times that I've learned through my studies. And I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank you. And thank you for wearing your Heriot-Watt t-shirt. Humam was not asked to wear that. That's how loyal our alumni can be. So we're really interested. Obviously, the session is about moving to different countries. I'm from UK and moved to Dubai. So it's always really interesting to find out why people moved to a different country and really what it's like, what took you to live and work there in the first place. Humam, could we start with you?
First, for me personally, I love traveling, and I just enjoy starting and setting up in a new country. And Canada was one of the countries that was on my list, even to study as a bachelor from before. So, because it has a very wide variation of, it's a big country, there's a lot of, there's the different seasons, there's different culture. I was looking forward to kind of like go and like travel and do adventures, like in terms of nature connection. And that's why Canada was one of the main on my list. And what made it happen and easier is that Heriot-Watt is already an international university. The main campus is in Edinburgh and then Dubai and Malaysia. So that's where I actually had the privilege to go on as a Go Global student to Malaysia campus. This t-shirt from Malaysia, by the way. I was like in Malaysia campus. And that's where I did my first semester in third year. And Heriot-Watt like helped to kind of like establish the same courses, this everything. It didn't change on me, and that's where like I could learn and in different environment. That's where the different environment can help you and affect you. And professors who have done different work and different industry they can give you, and make it more interesting to you.
And I think I seem to remember you might have been one of our first Go Global students from Dubai to go to Malaysia as well. So
I was
you were
honored
kind of the test
to
pilot on that one. Ashwin, how about you? What took you to the US?
Well, look, I really wanted to also, I first of all, I love traveling as well, same as Humam. And I got a little bit of a flavor of that through the Model UN Club at Heriot-Watt. So I was its president for 1 year, and I was a very close part of the club's activities going forward. And we actually did 2 conferences abroad. One was in London at Imperial College, and the other one was in Oxford. And that really, gave me a flavor of what the culture looks like outside Dubai, and which is important for me because I've been at that point, I'd been in the UAE all my life, right? So it was good for me to see how people had different thoughts and different ways of approaching problems all outside of Dubai. So that really encouraged me to probably look abroad just for further studies, and that's the primary reason. And Heriot-Watt being a global institution really played a big role in that, Rich, because it was very easy to convince admission committees outside that I'm capable of handling a global environment, and that was always a good thing. And when it eventually came to it, I had to choose between a college in London and my college in the US, Carnegie Mellon, where I eventually ended up going for my master's. So I think primary driver was I wanted to do a master's degree, but where I ended up had to be a bunch of factors that drove my decision, which was basically, what was my future prospects in that field, what was the course structure looking like. So all that played a part on where I eventually ended up. But the reason I ended up going there, Heriot-Watt really did have to play an important role in that one.
Thank you. And it's important to let everybody know that this session is not about telling everybody how to do the visa process, because that's going to be very different than when you both first moved to your respective countries. But Ashwin, can you tell us practically, what was it, a long process? What kind of hurdles did you have to go through? What kind of paperwork? Just so that we've got an insight into your particular journey.
Sure. I think the biggest hurdle was finishing up all the standardized tests to actually show the admission committees. So I had to do something called a GRE. I think you still have to do that while applying for master's universities nowadays. So that took about a 6-month process just to study for it and whatnot. So that was done parallel to my 4th year studies at Heriot-Watt. So that whole process started right while I was in Heriot-Watt itself. But the actual process when it came to getting the visa and whatnot, that was barely a month or 2. After I decided which university I wanted to go to, I had to work with the respective universities to get all the necessary documents, fill out applications, and just go to the embassy and get my visa stamp. So it was very straightforward after that. Making sure that you're set up to apply for those programs in the first place. I think that's the biggest hurdle that most people would need to be aware of.
Thank you. And how about, is that any different in Canada, or did you have other things that you had to do?
It's a bit similar, but I feel for you, Ashwin. It's a lot of work to kind of gather all the information and apply. But I think what made it easier is that our university is accredited worldwide, and going from bachelor to master's, you would require those requirements, basically like an entry requirements, and then all of those checkpoints that they have to see, like, is it equivalent to what we teach here in this country? And that's where I had to do an equivalency, a degree equivalency here. It's through, it can be done through different institutes, but like one of them, what I've used is like the World Education Services. And that's where I had to gather all the transcript and like send all the documents, the degree as attested and everything. just to get it that, okay, I did 4 years and Heriot-Watt, it's equivalent to the 4 years in Canada. And that's what made it easier, is that I didn't lose any of the years, as opposed to could be in another situation, could be like I would require to repeat a year or take more courses in order to kind of fulfill that requirement. And the degree I've chosen was it was like master's in engineering, and it's different from the master's in science. It's more of like a course-based and more into practical projects that they work on instead of the main thesis, and gathering all those kind of like documents and application and submitting it. It took quite the time, but I think it's rewarding. It's worth it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the fact that both of you were in various clubs and societies, like you mentioned, the Go Global, being part of MUN, all of those things really help with the application process, particularly if you're going from undergraduate to a master's study as well. So obviously you've gone through the paperwork, probably waited for those emails to come through to your inbox, and now you've arrived in this completely different country. For anyone that doesn't currently live in Dubai can be a whole new world to come into already. So Humam, how was it arriving when you first arrived to Canada? What were those initial months like? And was it very different to what you imagined, or had you done your homework really well?
I did do my homework in terms of what to kind of expect. And I think the key is not to like listen to a lot of like ideas and opinions and take it as your own, because everyone was like, it's gonna be -40, it's gonna be like, like where are you going to? It's gonna be super cold. Like I haven't experienced winter as like as harsh as here, and but it made it kind of like easier, because I was expecting this, and I knew like I need to dress up, I need to like it's a different style that we are used to in Dubai. And the very first 3 months was like really absolutely like traveling. I was just like going everywhere, like trying to see more of the country, because before my program starts, so that I can get into the routine of the studies. But I've basically visited Mississauga, Oakville, Toronto. I was just traveling, seeing friends, and then trying different adventures.
So still making the most of being a student and having your breaks before the hard work begins. And Ashwin, how about you? How was your arrival to Boston?
Well, I didn't arrive in Boston. I arrived in Pittsburgh. That's where my university, Carnegie Mellon, was. But I do need to put a disclaimer. I did, go to the US as a tourist before I went for my master's. I wasn't necessarily visiting the country for the first time. But that being said, the US as a tourist is very much different to the US as a student. So, being in Dubai, I'm very used to, taking, the university bus when I was coming to the university, because I was traveling from Abu Dhabi every day for that, or, just taking a car wherever you want to go, just because it's ubiquitous, right? And, when I came to Pittsburgh, that the level of luxury just dips down, tremendously. So, you don't necessarily have, or it's not economical to take cars everywhere, or to take Ubers or taxis everywhere. So, our university actually, subscribed in like free public transportation. So, our student ID card used to give us free bus transport everywhere. So that's one good way of promoting sustainability and encouraging people to take the public transport and whatnot. So that was good in the sense. You also got to interact with a lot of people along the way, because most of the times in those buses you'll be just meeting students and whatnot going to your university. So that's a good way to get around the city. But at the same time, I had a rude shock based on just the living arrangements, right? Because I'm very used to big open rooms that that Dubai provides, and the small rooms that Pittsburgh had, because it's a very old city, right? So uh, just that that difference in expectations really surprised me initially. But within a week or so, I think just the people you meet, the interactions you'll have over there, and just the amount of smart people that are present around you, I think that quickly takes your mind off of any sort of you know uh, any sort of issues you may have had with that city to begin with. So I really enjoyed it, but uh, I do have to warn people that it is different than Dubai. But if you are in Europe or we're not, so it might be similar.
Okay, thank you. So talking about like the similarities and differences, I know that we had a chat in preparation for this session about working cultures. So Ashwin, can you tell us a bit more about the working culture in the US, or where you work in particular? What's it like? Does it differ to other places that you might have done internships in or done part-time working in? What's kind of some of those challenges and some of those great points as well?
Sure. So I did do 2 internships when I was still working at Heriot-Watt. So during the summer, I did one internship in ABB in Abu Dhabi, and then another one was a small oil and gas consulting firm, also based in Abu Dhabi. So I've had a little bit of a flavor as to how the working culture is like in Abu Dhabi or the UAE. But that being said, it's very company dependent. It's not really, I cannot really generalize expectations everywhere, right? So, but based on what that's happened, and my first job in the US was basically I worked for like 8 months at Carnegie Mellon in their research team, and then I moved to Boston for my job, and also in consulting, right? So what I would see as the bigger changes between the two working cultures, I think, is just definitely the amount of importance they give here to employee development. Let's put it this way: you need to put in the effort to show that you're actually willing to learn, and then the employers will reciprocate equally. So they will make sure that you go for conferences, put your name out there, take part in publications maybe, and whatnot. So the culture is very collaborative in the US, whereas in UAE, in the companies that I worked in, at least, it was more of a top-down structure where people give you instructions and you do, and you are expected to stay in that place. And that being said, I'm not saying that this is happening in every company in the UAE, right? I'm sure there are fantastic companies out there that do this, but what really, drew me into the American working culture is the fact that you can sit with your CEO at the lunch table at sometimes, right? Like exchanging ideas and whatnot. So that really shows the mark of a good leadership, at least, because they're able to just sit and just chat with anyone who's lower on the hierarchy table. But really, in day-to-day world, nobody's really pulling rank on you. It's all collaborative. You're all part of the same team, and if one fails, the whole team fails, and that's not that's pretty much the entire culture that's going on over here, at least in the companies that I work with.
Thank you. And like you said, I think it's also about time and place. So when you would have been working in Dubai, you would have been probably doing internships, which obviously when you're doing an internship is a little bit more instructional as well, isn't it? How about you, Humam? How have you found it in Canada? Does it sound different to the US, or is there anything about? You're on the border of each other.
Yeah.
What's your experience?
I found many of the points that Ashwin mentioned is similar to what is the culture here in Canada in terms of the workplace. And I agree with him. Like you can literally talk to the CEO, the main manager, the general, like anyone who will be able to kind of provide you some feedback or some ideas. It's kind of like more open communication, I would say. And it's just that teamwork is highly valued in the Canadian business environment. and working well with others, listening to their ideas, sharing responsibility. Those like it's very important skills, and coworkers are treated with respect. And from those working in entry level position to supervisors and managers, and that's what I kind of felt like it sometimes. Like the title is just a title, it's just the name. It's not an actual. Doesn't have to dictate a certain behaviors or a certain actions and stuff. And that's where I found it very rewarding in terms of feeling more comfortable to express ideas and be able to kind of like vent out when there's a problem. And even when there's something that goes wrong, because we're humans at the end of the day, so there's mistakes gonna happen. It's not gonna be more of like a blaming scheme, but again, that depends on the culture on the specific company. It's more of like collaborative. They'll find the solution, they'll work together. We need more resources, we'll find resources, everyone chips in. Like we were suffering a little bit from manpower issues constraint recently. I'm working in an installation company, and that's where like most of the PCs like who are a white collar job, they're like now doing the installation and going into sites, and that's where you can sense that okay, the help, like I want to help as much as I can in the certain in the way that I will be able to kind of benefit the company as a whole. And that's where like you can see it that they care basically, and that's something I value here.
And we talked about working hours as well when we were offline. I think actually two different scenarios really. One, having relatively longer hours and maybe shorter holidays in Canada. Yeah. And then just before we came online, I was chatting to Ashwin about sometimes his clients are from all over the world. So having those boundaries in place for when you're dealing with clients that are in all different places globally. So can you tell me some of the challenges, some of the things that are not so great, but what's your benefit? How do you weigh that out?
Because we work in a construction industry, we start very early, and the good thing though, like we don't stay as much, like as far, like in terms of hours set, relatively 8 hours a day. Occasionally we'll have like a weekend work, but that's more of into the installation and the foreman team rather than in the managerial side. What made it also flexible is the ability to work online. I was recently a little bit sick with the COVID, so I was able to kind of like work online and have my own hours set there. And in general, like it's kind of different than UAE, where you have the terms of the holiday, because you get depending on different company, but usually like they'll give you a specific number of days that is like it's different than the amount that usually given in UAE, like 2 to 3 weeks, and that's something that I noticed different. But because there are many like holidays, like stat holidays that comes in a Monday or a Friday, and it's kind of like you have a more of like long weekends in many cases, and that kind of like balance it over. And again, we're looking for the balance between like kind of work and life. So if we get that balance in, regardless of how much of time we get, it just kind of like helps on the long run.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that, Ashwin, about your experience?
Yeah, Humam raised a lot of valid points in terms of what's the what's the working life like in different cultures and different sectors and industries. Obviously going to have different hours, because I do have quite a few folks who work in the construction industry also have like very similar working structure as Humam mentioned. On the consulting, on the other hand, it is very much client dependent. So, wherever your clients are, that's kind of how you have to structure your working hours as well. But one good thing is at least my company was actually headquartered in Edinburgh. So that's a fun fact. So like having a Scottish connection is still good. But the one good thing is we still believe in giving the same amount of vacation days like how you would get in Europe. So we get about 5 weeks paid vacation, and then obviously you also have the holidays and whatnot sprinkled throughout the year. So that's one good thing, and they expect you to take those vacation days, right? So it's for your own health, your own engagement and whatnot. So they expect you to take those days, and they encourage you to do it, which is a good way of enforcing pretty much that balance that happens between work and life. So that's one good thing. I think one other point I'd like to add is even though the work hours may be different, I think it's very important as for you to and as you guys may be coming into the professional world at some point, it's very important to set those boundaries in the first place. If you don't want to work 12 14 hours a day, because that can easily happen in the consulting field, don't just set that boundaries, and more often than not your managers and whatnot will actually be very receptive to that. They understand when and when not to actually call you and make sure that it won't disturb you during those hours. So having those boundaries is actually important. But obviously if the work demands it and you're going towards a very important deadline, sure, just go out there and give it your all. If it takes long hours, do it. That's fine. But at the end of the day, it's all about that balance. And if you don't set that boundary in the first place, it's more often than not people will take advantage of it, and they'll expect that your willingness to work long hours then will become the norm, and that's not good for anyone in the long run. So yeah.
Thank you. Some great discussion on balance there, and it sounds like actually there's wins that you both get. It might be that different countries have different public holidays, so you might get holidays elsewhere outside of your annual leave, and then your professional development being well supported. So it sounds like you're working in companies that you enjoy as well, which is really important. So aside from work, obviously when you move abroad, I know myself that I don't have my family here. So there's different things that come with that. You have to try and keep in touch without disturbing people, fit in with different time zones and things like this. How moving away from what your friends, your family, how difficult was that? And how did you start building your own network, whether that's professional or social network?
Sure, I can start. So the one thing that I did was, I really wanted to maintain a connection back home as well as building new connections in the city that I went to. So one thing that, and I still keep it to this date, is, I actually make sure to chat with my parents every single day, just ask about their day, what went on, because what's happening, in the UAE, it's still been a part of my life, right? All the time. So not just keeping close with them, but also keeping a tab on what UAE is up to. That's one good thing, right? Because I don't necessarily read Khaleej Times or Gulf News every day now that I'm in the US, right? So that's one way for me to keep in touch with what the UAE is doing. And obviously just talking to my parents is good as well. But that's one thing that I did. But the second thing, as I went about building my networks, I think the US has a very good networking scene. They force students to actually go out and network and whatnot, be it through career fairs or be it through actual just networking sessions. The culture over here is, the more you network, the more the employees in that company actually get to know you, and they get to put an internal reference towards you. So that really helps in you pretty much, skipping the queue of applicants and potentially getting an interview in the first place. So that's a very established fact over here in the US. So that you know that whole point of just network in order to potentially make it easier for you to find a job. That's a very good incentive to actually go out there and build a network. So that was one fantastic thing. But just stepping back a little, when I did end up going to Pittsburgh, just before my my program actually started for my master's, me and my roommates, we actually made a point to invite some of our seniors from our program to our house or to our apartment for lunch. And one pro tip: nobody says no to free food or coffee anywhere. That's what I've learned, irrespective of which part of the world you are. So that's one good way of getting your seniors to come in. You get a chance to ask them whatnot, to get a feel of what the program looks like, so that you're not necessarily going in completely blind in your very first day. And got very good insights on what we need to expect, how we should approach our courses, what type of courses we should take and whatnot, because the program coordinators and your professors can only do so much. They can only provide an official view, but the students are where you will get the inside view of what's good, what's not good for you, how you want to really structure it. So that really helped me. All that combinations really helped me build that network up front. And when it was day one of my master's, I already knew who to say hello to. I already knew where to go, and just made it much more smoother. So that's a pro tip for anyone. Be it you want to make new friends, you want to make new introductions and whatnot. Just invite them for coffee and pay for coffee. It's not really that expensive, right? So that's a very good way to potentially get them to open up, because they'll also take care of something for you in the long run if need be. So that's my pro tip over here.
Thank you. And Humam, how did you build your network and cope with being away from family?
Beautiful. Ashwin touched on many great points, and it's very important to nurture the connections and the family connections that we have back home, back in UAE or back home, and for me in Syria. It's challenging with the time zone, definitely. But once you get into a routine where you can do it through lunch hour or after work from here, which is going to be almost very late there, but it's getting that specific routine and giving back to siblings and family, and that's why it's a very important part. And I was fortunate to kind of keep touch in terms of in daily activities, and that's why I found that I can still do my work here, my studies at the same time. I can still be with my family within the we have now all the virtual activities, so that's very important. In terms of networking, that's a main topic, the main point and skill that's required in today's age, that it's needed everywhere. And as Ashwin said, a coffee, just a chat over a coffee, give you an insight for this, for example, if someone, if they have a job opening and then you network it. I've had that opportunity. I've networked with one of the people who work there, and then we just chat over coffee. I get to see, I can see 5 years now, ahead, just by his insights, basically. And that's similar how, for example, we have those events that we do at Heriot-Watt. It give you this insight. Okay, I'll prioritize my time now to finish my studies. You can plan step by step, not to be living in the future and dwelling and stuff. It was just more to kind of give you an idea and inspire you, basically. And that's what we hope to do and accomplish here. Because of the nature of my studies at Carleton University, it's a joint program with Carleton and U Ottawa, University of Ottawa. and I was able to kind of take courses in Carleton and the same at Ottawa. So in the semester, I have like 3 courses here, 2 courses there, and that gave me a very wide opportunities to kind of like network. And then I'm like, I can be with this group in the morning, and then in the afternoon I'm with the other group, and that's kind of like give me a different insight and give me different ideas what to expect and what to do after I graduate. And we held also many like career events, and as Ashwin said, like the employers really appreciate it, and even they ask you like to meet you instead of like having a formal interview or like in the office previously. Now it's more of virtually.
Oh, we seem to have lost Humam for a moment. Seem to have frozen there.
Like just ask you, okay, I'll
there we
just meet
go.
you at this career fair because there's a career fair at your university. Is it better now? Sorry.
Yeah, you've unfrozen now. Carry on.
Okay, cool. And just those like career events that kind of like give you an insight basically, and then employers will appreciate to kind of meet you at those events because they see that you're willing to put the effort to develop yourself and network with people.
Thank you. And that's really why we've done this session now that students in Edinburgh have got been having their careers fair this week. We've got students in Dubai having their careers fair next week, and we're doing different sessions. So we're really grateful for our alumni passing on that information as well. That's so crucial to all your skills. And you talked about flexibility. And obviously when we started the session, it was 2:00, but it was 6:00 in the morning for both of you. And even the preparation for the sessions, I think you joined me late last night. So it's working abroad is one of those things that does change things. There's give and take for things. But actually, as long as you're enjoying where you're working and you've already done your homework and have got good insights, then it sounds like it can be a really good experience wherever that may be. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to just check in with my colleague Jen and see if there are any Q&As that have come up either in the chat or the Q&A section before we carry on.
Sure. I just had to make sure I had pressed the button. Technology. No, that was really, really interesting, very insightful. So thank you both for that. So one question is, what was your favourite part of being at Heriot-Watt, if I may ask that first of all? Very simple, straightforward question, but I think it's always great for other people to hear that, other people's experiences.
Yeah, so I can start us off. So favorite part of being at Heriot-Watt definitely was my classmates, right? And that they were the ones who really make or break the environment for you. So I'd rank them first, then I'd rank the labs and the practical labs that we've had, at least in the engineering side of things. So really enjoyed working in the previous campus. Have not seen what the labs look like in the new campus. I'm sure it's very fancy now, but really loved all my soldering tasks and whatnot that we did in the old electrical engineering lab. That was really fun. Always good memories there. And then I'd have to say my MUN days. I think we had every Thursday or Wednesday as the club days in campus. So that afternoon was all just talking about Model UN and just going to different conferences, just getting to know everyone involved. And it was good to not just talk with engineers anymore, right? We were talking with everyone at Heriot-Watt, Dubai, which was fantastic. So that'd be my top 3. I know you asked for what's your favorite, but I can't really distinguish one between the other.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's a very nice and a great question. Thanks for asking. I agree with Ashwin. I have the same kind of thing. It's all favorite. I'm like trying to find one of them, but having those like classmates and having the professors who done their industry work, they've done their kind of like academics, and it just give you every time you learn a lot from them, and that was very crucial. And as a Go Global student, transferring to Malaysia campus gave me the same, like, different insights from a different perspective, but within the same, like, mold, basically the same university. And that's what kind of like was very appreciated and very favorite to me, that I can explore a new country at the same time I can do my my same studies. I won't be affected by the time that I go into different country. And having the practical projects as a mechanical engineer, we were a lot of visits to the mechanical lab, and we always have those projects that we have the hands-on experience. We learn how to do different tactics and different using tools, and that helped me when I moved here. It's like, here most people do the stuff DIY with yourself. You can easily, like, you learn here everything. You learn how to work with the car, you learn paint, you learn it's select all. That's what's just having the idea, like, to use the tools and encourage you to kind of. I still remember from first year we had this like 2D frame aluminum structure that we worked on, and it was just a great memories. And just the practical projects, that is something I really appreciate at Heriot-Watt.
Fantastic, and it's always great for us to hear that, isn't it, Catherine? That's such great feedback. I suppose another one that I would like to ask from an alumni perspective. We've talked a lot about networking, and as part of our alumni team and our role, and within the Watt Club, our alumni association, it's all about improving and generating those connections and giving you the opportunity to connect wherever you are in the world. So I suppose it would be great for us and for students and our current graduates, just as a reminder, what do you find is so important about being part of our alumni association? And yeah, any tips you have or any experiences you've had that have really proved worthwhile for you. I'll go back to you, Hemam, again. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. The thing I really appreciated, like reaching out for us to kind of like be able to participate in this event. And that is something like I told Catherine when I saw her name on the message, I'm like, right away, yes, sign me up. I didn't even read the whole thing in the beginning, but I was like excited to kind of like get back. And that is something really appreciated, to kind of have this feeling of the community, that even if like you've graduated, you've done all the work that within those years, but you're still part. It's not like you finished and like now, okay, next. You don't develop or nurture those relationships or those networking and being in part of those networks. I'm sure if I go back, like I want to visit the new campus, and I'm sure Catherine will give us a tour at that time. Like, it's just gonna be something that makes you always feel welcome.
Yeah, that's very good points there, Hemam. So, for me at least, when I think about this whole setup, right, like when Catherine actually reached out, I was pretty much in the same boat as Hemam, right? I'm like, okay, yes, I'll do this. I don't have to. I did read through it, but it was early morning for me, so I was a little bit in a sleepy state when I read through your message, Catherine. But it was a very easy answer for me, right? I really wanted to do this, and part of the reason is, for me, just thinking back to my days as a student, I really would have loved to have listened to alumni insights and how they've approached their life and whatnot, right? So it's a good thing to give back to the university that has given you a lot of things and how it shaped your life going forward. So I would use this platform to call upon other alumni to also come and give their insights, because whatever said and done, students do need the insights from alumni to help inform future decisions going forward. So this platform that you have on Watt Club is just perfect for doing that. And obviously, this goes without saying, even after this webinar, if you do need to reach out to either me or even Hemam, I'm sure he'll be happy to do so as well. Just reach out to us. We're happy to talk, happy to give our perspective on day-to-day life as students. and how we've approached our job searching and whatnot going forward. We are happy to do that. So, and there's a lot of alumni around the world from Heriot-Watt who would be willing to do that as well. So it's just that encouraging those connections is just good, and especially now that we're living in a highly globalized world and a highly virtual world thanks to COVID, it's a good way for folks to very easily reach everyone, and the Watt Club does exactly that.
Fantastic. This is brilliant, Ashley. You're doing our job for us. And I think it's just, absolutely just reminding people that obviously we've got over 150,000 alumni in 193 countries, and you can connect with each other. We've got a very strong LinkedIn group and across all our social channels, and we'll be popping all that information in the chat. But if anyone does ever want to get in touch with us, they can do it at watt.club@hw.ac.uk. But I mean, from us, from questions, that's it, Catherine. I'll hand it back.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I've just got a final question on, we've got graduates we've got students in their final year, we've got working postgraduates, and we've got people that graduated just in the past year or two. Perhaps everybody is looking at their career in different ways. So just as your final thoughts, specifically about your country that you're working in, what would be your biggest tip? Let's start with you, Ashwin. What would be your biggest tip on moving to the US?
Preparation. Just understand what you're getting yourself into. Just because people come here with a lot of expectations, and they leave sometimes disappointed when they're not met. Be it the sort of program you're trying to get into, your work prospects afterwards and whatnot. So just understand where the job market lies right now, and what sort of courses you need to take to get to that intended job is very important. Or if you're coming in just as a working professional here, right? So that's fine. The biggest tip for a working professional, I would say, is understand what sort of culture you're getting yourself into. That could be a shock for people who might come in from a culture that's usually is top down, but I think you'll largely find it very enjoyable in the sense that your opinions are actually valued. You'll be asked to contribute on a lot of things from day one, which it could be a frightening prospect, it could be a very exciting prospect depending on how you view it, but just that preparation and understanding what you're going to get yourself into will just help you immensely in sort of making the best use of your time in this country, because it is wonderful, but at the same time, if you come in with a lot of expectations, you might not be met with all of them. So that's
thank you. And actually, are there any skills or attributes that is good for students to know about within the US that are kind of a bit more heightened there than what you might have seen when you were living in UAE?
Definitely asking questions. That soft skills of just being there, taking that initiative to go out there, reach out to people like Kumam and I have spoken about networking all the time, right? There are very creative ways of getting in touch with people and just showing what you can do. The amount of work that you do, again, you're all smart to begin with. You're all in Heriot-Watt anyway, right? So, the work is fine, but making sure that you can communicate that work, and you can communicate how good you can actually be and show value for your future employer or whoever you're meeting with. I think that's super important, and just having those soft skills will really get you to where you need to be.
Thank you. And Humam, if I was going to move to Canada, what would be your top tip and my top skills that I would need?
Adaptability will be the main thing that required here, and being adaptable to the different weather, different season, different timing during the day. Sometimes you experience all the season one day. For example, you need to kind of be dressing and stuff. That's in terms of person, but I agree with what Ashwin said. It's basically this dynamics that is here, or that's US, similarly in Canada too, to kind of like have to have this different ideas and like expectation is a main key. So Shakespeare said that the root of heartache is expectation, or like setting a high expectation, and that's where like you would dwell in, oh, I'm gonna come here, it's gonna be the best, everyone moves here because it's da-da-da. Like you will create a story that is it's gonna be hit when reality comes, and like it's gonna be a little bit different, and could be a little bit, could be more, depending on how much you set up to. And that's where when you're flexible and adaptable, you will be able to kind of see what is the demand, what is needed at this time. You want to focus on financials, sure, like do more work. You want to focus more on developing yourself, do more studies. That's where like you kind of have this balance. And I think here, like coming here, it was different because in UAE I was like only studying. I wasn't working at the same time as studying. And here I'm like I was studying full time and working part time. And currently I'm working full time and also studying full time as online courses in project management to get a graduate certificate. And that's where like you kind of assess and see what is this time requires from you to kind of reach your goals, and enjoy the journey. That's the main thing. It's not about like actually getting that specific goal. It's the journey and the work you put in every day to get towards what are you hoping for and to accomplish.
Thank you very much. Very well said. I'd like to thank you both immensely for coming on today before you have to start your whole work days as well. So thank you very much. And thank you also for the kind offer of students being able to link with you. So we will make sure that we've send the students your details in a format that you'd like, and that we're connecting the right students to you if they've got an interest in either your professions or working in your respective countries that you work in as well. So thank you very much. I hope everyone that's watching this webinar has enjoyed it, and it's given them food for thought about the skills, things that you might want to think about when you're even liaising with employers next week, or you're looking at changing your jobs if you're already working. We will be continuing this series of insight sessions, and we hope to cover some other countries as well around the globe. So it's going to be very interesting seeing what the differences are. So thank you again, and please remember to, when you are about to graduate, if you are a student, please opt in to receive communication from the Watt Club when you leave, because this is what keeps you in touch with us, and this is what makes sure you get the e-news and the contact from us and the opportunity to give back in the same way that Humam and Ashwin have today. So thank you very much. Thank you for all attending.